Cambridge. Welcome to What's That About, where we answer all your questions about the pressing issues of the day, brought to you by CCTV.
CCTV, the linchpin of our very civilization. Without it, we would all surely descend into violent anarchy, like a pack of wild dogs tearing at an antelope carcass.
Vivid. Anyways, our first question comes from Elvis on Beale Street. Elvis asks,
Hey, wait a minute, Julie. It's December, right?
yes,
And this is the last show of the year, right?
yep.
Then that means it's time for our annual year in review.
I know we did this last year, but once is not really a tradition, is it, Max?
All these questions, Julie. And as we do for every year in review, we'll be counting down what's that about the top 5 stories we covered in 2025 based on a survey of historical experts based in Cambridge.
What Cambridge historical experts?
Me, I am the Cambridge historical experts. Our first 2 stories are about the fight to build more housing in this great commonwealth.
Okay, I'll play along. For our first story, we covered the effort to change zoning in Cambridge in order to make it easier to build more housing. The multifamily housing ordinance, originally introduced by Councillor Burhan Azim, was finally passed this February after years of hearings and efforts.
That's right. In the past, Cambridge zoning had only allowed single and two-family housing west of Harvard and triple-deckers east of Harvard, which is a legacy of redlining that was kept in place by years of NIMBY-led inertia to prevent more housing from being built.
But Cambridge finally said no to all that and passed an update to zoning citywide to allow 4-story buildings by right anywhere, with 6 stories allowed for buildings that included 20% affordable housing.
But in our number 2 story, Milton, things played out a little differently, didn't they, Julie?
That they did, Max. Milton tried to sink the first statewide effort to build more housing in decades when it sued to overturn the MBTA Communities Act, which was a bill passed during the Baker administration intended to get towns to build more housing via upzoning areas adjacent to public transit.
Milton could have just approved the compliant zoning changes drawn up by their own planning board and moved on. But Milton voters instead opted to hold a special referendum, which resulted in the town rejecting the upzoning. The town was then forced to fight a lawsuit from the state, spending almost $300,000 in legal fees, but Milton lost in court, as everyone expected.
But after that, Milton's select board, by a vote of 3-2, decided against submitting a compliant zoning plan. Instead, they petitioned the state to remove the town's classification as a rapid transit community and wanted to submit a plan like a community without T access. However, after much back and forth, Milton finally caved, and in a special town meeting, the voters approved zoning that could allow up to 2,500 multifamily housing units near transit.
Wow, maybe the majority of Milton don't hate their kids after all. All it took was a dumb and wasteful lawsuit, overturning a NIMBY referendum, and months of whining by their select board. Great job, Milton. Unfortunately, our number 3 story has a grimmer outcome. Number 3 was our coverage of the impact of the fascist federal government on the Cambridge area.
That's right. In April, we talked about how disastrous the Trump administration has been, not only to local universities like Harvard and MIT.
If only Harvard had accepted Barron's crayon-written application like they did for Jared Kushner, everything would be so much easier.
Well, don't forget Jared's daddy had to pay for a whole building before they let him in, too. We also covered how Trump and his weird brainworm man's hostility to vaccine development was hurting the biotech industry, and how Border Patrol's treatment of tourists from Canada and Europe was hamstringing the local economy.
Weird how repeatedly threatening your neighbor about becoming a 51st state doesn't bring in the big tourist bucks. And I hear tourism from Greenland is way down too.
Right, but of course, the most important impact of the fascists in DC has been on the immigrant community in the area.
That's right, Trump's stormtroopers are roaming around areas like Chelsea and Revere, seizing anybody who looks brown, even high schoolers on their way to volleyball practice.
And perhaps most notoriously, Trump goons abducted Tufts student Rumeza Ozturk off a quiet street for simply writing an op-ed in the student paper calling for divestment from Israel.
Because if it's one thing our founding fathers never wanted to protect, it's freedom of speech. Oh wait, it's the literal First Amendment of the Constitution. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. You, Donald Trump.
Our fourth biggest story of the year is Beacon Hill transparency, the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, the good news. As we covered this summer, for the first time in 6 years, the legislature agreed on committee rules that include major transparency improvements good government groups have long been lobbying for.
Right, the new rules mean Beacon Hill now must publish all final committee votes and make committee testimony public. They also agreed to give 10 days notice for hearings and release plain language summaries of each bill on their website, among other positive changes.
It's weird that we're celebrating such common sense transparency rules for a legislative body that's supposed to represent the wishes of the people of Massachusetts.
True, which unfortunately brings us right to the bad and ugly. And I'm talking about the legislature's utter refusal to follow the law passed by 72% of voters last year and allow State Auditor Diana DiZoglio to perform an audit of Beacon Hill.
Last episode, we reported that Auditor DiZoglio brought her case directly to the people of Cambridge, speaking about Beacon Hill's intransigence in a Porter Square town hall.
And don't forget the town hall was put on by the CCTA and moderated by a very handsome man.
Huh, I thought he looked more like Mark Maron.
No, well, some people think Mark Maron is handsome.
Do they? Our final story of the year, and probably the one with the biggest impact locally, was the 2025 Cambridge city elections.
Yeah, all year we covered the run-up to the local elections and the big issues that seem to be guiding voters. Bike lanes, housing, the fraught school superintendent search, and the disappearance of funding for Cambridge's model UBI program Rise Up.
And don't forget, we conducted detailed interviews with virtually every challenger candidate for city council, except for Tim Flaherty, who apparently felt his $150,000 in campaign funding meant that he didn't need to do any interviews or even present much of a public campaign.
Yeah, right up to the night before our interview, Tim was going to come on our show. But when he saw our question about his past run-in with the law for bribing a federal witness, he decided he suddenly had to be in court the next day. Weird.
Unfortunate. In any case, Flaherty was right, and on election day he walked right into brothel enthusiast Paul Toner's seat. The other new council member will be Cambridge DSA member Aya Al-Zubi, with Aisha Wilson the only incumbent other than Toner not being reelected. This will likely end up tilting the council to be more friendly to bike lanes and possibly lead to more affordable and social housing.
In the wake of widespread anger about the superintendent search process and complaints about lack of communication on closing of the Kennedy Longfellow School, the Cambridge School Committee will now have 3 new, more pro-union members and a likely new mayor to sit on the council, as previous mayor Denise Simmons fell in popularity and is unlikely to be appointed mayor again by her fellow councilors. And this has been another great What's That About year in review.
It's hard to believe another year is over already. What am I saying? No, it's not. This year seemed to last forever. If it wasn't one piece of bad news, it was something else.
Yep, one battle after another, which is a good movie everyone should see.
Do you have any New Year's resolutions, Max?
Try to make it through the year without watching any news?
Then how are we going to do the show?
Huh, we can just make it up, right? I mean, if there's anything I've learned during the latest Trump era, it's that people are stupid and will buy any old story if you make it entertaining enough.
Except our viewers, right, Max? Our viewers are smart and special.
Oh, right, sure. Smart and special. And I mean special in a good way, not the other way. You know, special.
All right, well, until next year, we'll see you first.
There will be feasting and dancing in Jerusalem next year. I'm gonna make it through this year. If it kills me, we are gonna